Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm Degidio, and we're back with another episode of the Jaxxon podcast. I'm sitting here with the greatest co-host of all time, Moto freestyle legend, a very good friend of mine, and someone who I have to admit, I never really realized how talented he was till I watched him live and direct at A1. This guy was doing things on a bike I didn't think were humanly possible, except for maybe Patrick Evans on the thing he rides. I'm sitting here with Twitch, ladies and gentlemen. And we have a very special guest. Twitch flew in someone from Sweden, Tony Stark himself, an inventor, an icon, an innovator. Some would compare him to Isaac Newton. I like to call him Anton. Ladies and gentlemen, the founder and CEO of Start. Go ahead, Twitch.
The future of dirt bikes is sitting here with us right now.
I hope so. That's the plan.
What were you doing when you thought of the Stark?
So I built another company before that is selling motocross parts and accessories called 24MX.
Mm-hmm.
And after 12 years of that, I felt it's time to do something new. And for many years, I've just been dreaming about what should be possible to do with electric motorcycles. And I just realized, well, at this date, I will no longer have anything to do. So I got to come up with something. And I wanted to work with sustainability. But I also wanted to build something that could really change the world, something huge.
Yeah,
and,
it's definitely changing the world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Congrats.
Yeah, that's why.
When I saw this thing, I got to tell you, not only all joking aside, is it one of the most innovative products, but when you talk about a product that can actually change the game, I mean, just the sustainability aspect, the eco-friendly aspect of this thing, but the way it rides and what it does, I didn't even think, like I said, it was humanly possible because it has so much power. I feel like I'm in a Tesla of some sort or something, but like on a bike, the thing just goes from 0 to 100. I'm not like an engine guy. Like I don't even know how to use the brake in my car. So I
or a clutch on a manual clutch.
we don't have to go that far, but
luckily this has no clutch, so you can ride this
I
all
was
day
going to
long.
tell you.
That's the thing.
When I realized your thing could go fast without a clutch, I was all in.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You don't need to be as talented as Twitch to have a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wanna ask you, like you talk about, like Twitch said, having you here on the show, it's very cool to get like a behind the scenes of like the business perspective. Mm-hmm. You're coming into an industry that's dominated by Fortune 500 style companies, conglomerates, billion-dollar companies, right?
Yeah.
Engines have been around forever, and these companies have been around forever.
You look at our industry, and it looks like it's so hard to break into. Like, oh, how am I going to make something to compete with Yamaha, Honda, Kawasaki? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's like reaching for the stars. You know what I mean? Like what you did.
Mm-hmm. It's super hard, and I think if you would come up with a product that is as good as them, you have no chance. Mm-hmm. Because they are so good with everything, they have so much muscle. So you got to do something that's a completely different game, something that is just so much better, or at least, different, so that they can't compete with it. That's the only way to break in. Then once you're in at a certain level, then it's easier to stay, but to break in is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, like you had to have like put a lot of thought into it with your team, your resources, just everything, you know what I mean? Like, and with how cool the bike is, like even just the plastics, like the look of the bike, like that, like the look of a bike can kill it. Yeah. Like it could make the bike look cool or look like crap. You know, like I remember when I first seen it, I was like, dude, I'm like, there was other brands that came out like Alta and something else, but they never looked like a cool motorcycle. They were like, like that thing's kind of.
But there's something with electric vehicles. Electric vehicles always have to look futuristic, super plastic, and they look like kids' toys, in general.
Yeah.
And we wanted to build a really beautiful product, an object that looks beautiful, a bit like think about the Ferrari. It's a beautiful object. It's not just a beautiful car. Mm-hmm. And that's
everything about it.
Yeah, sure. So we spend a lot of time doing that.
So from a business perspective, how did you look at the industry? Because you're saying something that I kind of like, you're reading people's mind. Like you can't break into an industry dominated by that much power with the exact same product, because they have distribution, they have man hours, they have years of service, and 100-year plus of history. So when you were designing this bike, what was your initial business perspective? Was it, we're going to design this bike and then try to sell it cheap? We're going to design this bike and then sell it to Moto freestyle legends? Like what was the idea, the concept on the business side, not just the design side?
Yeah, but I think, you can see that our industry is suffering from several issues. One of them is noise. So we have tracks shutting down all over the world because of noise. And a lot of people have land where they would like to ride. We met with Grant Langston, who has 6 acres, but he can't ride. So he could ride, but he can't because of noise. And so I think we realized if we could make an electric motocross that is better than the best gas. And I think, there's, better in some ways, and maybe there are, of course, benefits with the gas bike as well. But something that is incredibly good, for sure there will be market. There are always a certain percentage of people that are willing to try something new if it makes sense. And I think the bike does make sense. It is an amazing bike to ride, and I think most people that get it, like, you never go back. You know, like, I have so many friends that they bought it because they like new things, they have money to spend, but once they bought it, they stopped using their old bikes, and eventually they sold them. You know, because like every time you have to make that decision, am I going to jump on the 450 or the Varg? And a lot of people are just kind of gravitating towards that, I guess.
How many versions of the bike did you have to make before you got to what you're at now?
I mean, there are so many, like, thousands of improvements, so I think the overall concept is very close to like what we thought from day one. But then you do so many iterations. I mean, we have components with hundreds of iterations, and then you have a few components that first time we get it right.
Yeah,
but that's very unusual, I think.
Yeah.
And even today, like in production, we are always making improvements. Like after a certain amount of time, you might realize that this component could be 2% better in some regard, and then we will change it if we can see that. So we're changing things every single day.
Yeah. How long did you guys have the bike before you put it into production? How long were you guys riding it before it came out, or even anyone seen it?
So I think a little bit less than 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, saw it. We presented it fairly early, but production came a bit later.
Yeah. When you launched pre-sales, was it just crazy, or was it what you expected?
It was I think I've never been closer to a heart attack than that.
I bet you had to have been so nervous. That's a stressful situation to be in. To be like, okay, like how's the industry going to take this? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad?
Yeah, and also there are like so much effort and money that went into the project. Like, what are people going to think? That's of course one part. Also, like I decided I will be the one presenting it. So I'm also putting myself out there, and I'm not a guy that normally I'm like to be a little bit,
behind the scenes,
So
it's a great show to be on, then, brother.
Well, here we are.
You're going to be clipped and posted all over the internet for the next year.
So it was a bit scary for sure. And then when we launched, we saw that like immediately just took off, and orders started like flooding in. But what made it even more nerve-wracking was that the website started crashing. We weren't ready for the traffic. So
really?
The first 24 hours, we had 6 hours live. So it just went up, crashed, went up, crashed. It was
no way.
The frustration and the feeling. Like, so there are so many highs because like this huge interest, and then the lows because fucking website is breaking down.
I think I heard some stuff about that. Like I think I heard one of my buddies tried to buy a bike, and then it went through, but then the site crashed, and then so he tried it again, bought another one, and he ended up with like 2 bikes, but he thought he only bought one or something like that. So he sold it to like one of his buddies.
Okay.
But I remember hearing something about that.
Yeah. Where was all the traffic coming from? How did you
Everywhere,
launch
right?
the marketing?
Everywhere, yeah. I mean, US for sure number one, but all over the world.
But through paid media, or did you have athletes, or what was your initial perspective on the launch?
Yeah, so let's say the strategy for the launch was, first of all, keep silent. So if you want to make something newsworthy, it needs to be something people don't already know. Like that's very basic thing, right? So we decided to keep it 100% confidential up until the launch. We didn't post
that is
a name,
awesome. That's hard to do.
Super hard.
Because when you work that hard on something, that's like your baby. Like you want to show it off, like, oh, look what I'm doing. But it's like to keep that under wraps, especially these days with social media. Like everyone posts something before they even have it. You know what I mean? So like for you to be able to do that, like good on you.
And also because you want to kind of see, do people like what we do? No, like we took a full gamble. Like we believed in, we think this will be good. So we worked on it for years. And then, because it's kind of, if you ask people along the way, it's nice to have some pointers, but we had to have a lot of confidence in that. So we launched, and then we did prepare. We talked to some medias before under embargo so that they had the content, so that everyone went live at the same time.
They would have it.
Yeah, but then it just spread organically because it was newsworthy, So within 2 weeks, 250 magazines had written articles about it, and everyone was posting about it. So it was 100% organic. We didn't spend any money to spread the message.
That is so rad.
And in terms of the launch strategy, like what Twitch was talking about, everybody knew about it. Did you guys meet your expectations?
Yeah, a lot more actually. So,
really?
That's so good.
Yeah, it was amazing because it changed, and that's a good thing. Why do you take pre-orders? Because you also need to know how many people wants to buy this
Yeah,
product.
you don't want to put out too many bikes and like, you know.
for sure.
Were you?
It's-
So yeah, I was gonna say, were you scared on pre-orders? We've done pre-orders. Like we launched our JX1 watch. It's one of our best-selling watches. Our first launch was pre-order, and it went through the roof.
Yeah.
But then we didn't have enough inventory to match it, so we had to double down on inventory, and that causes a lot of stress on your inventory cycle.
And you're trying to rush it.
Yeah. So did that cause a lot of stress for you guys in terms of like having to get more capital, more allocation of time?
Yeah, for sure. We had to. We had 2 factories at a time, so we built 2 different factories, one for the battery, one for the bike, and we had to build a new one. You know, that was like 10 times bigger. So 20 times bigger actually.
So you guys build all your own stuff in-house?
Yeah, so we build the battery pack in-house. So we have a line with robots and stuff that put it together, and then we build the bike as well.
I would love to come over one day and check out the factory. Like that would be a fun trip to like come just check out the whole process.
Yeah, you should. And actually now what we started just a few weeks ago, now we also produce some titanium components in-house. So we set up titanium 3D printers. So we're now mass producing our foot pegs ourselves. So
No
we
way.
get, you know, titanium powder in the door and foot pegs out the other. So
That's rad.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
cool.
cool.
Is that a fully vertical like warehouse / like manufacturing plant? Like, are you doing everything in house? Your 3PL, your shipping, your logistics, everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you set all that up?
You need a lot of smart people.
How big's your team?
300 people.
300 employees.
Yeah.
You started with 300 employees?
We started with 2 guys.
With 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
incredible.
That's congrats.
Yeah. That's cool.
I mean, Twitch built DBK. You know how hard it is to build a
Oh
brand.
yeah, I mean this is on a whole nother. This is like I'm just doing t-shirts. And stuff,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
what I'm
this is
saying.
like-
But we
this
all
is
know as
stuff-
business owners
this
like
is
what it
stuff
takes
that like
to build
you
a brand.
don't
but
know if
that's
it's going to do
crazy.
good or not. Like you said, like you looked at the bike for how long? You know what I mean? And then you're like, you see the bike every day. So to you, it gets a little old by the time it comes out, but it's still fresh in everyone else's mind when it comes out.
Yeah, you know, you question everything. I'm sure you guys do the same.
100%.
You know,
It's stressful.
yeah.
One thing, like everybody talks about the bike's aspects and like the key features, right? 6 hours of runtime, 80 horsepower. I think it's like 118 kilograms. And you also talk about the reducing of, no emissions and the low maintenance and all these aspects of the bike. What is it though that you think, if you had to sum it up, is the key factor on why you guys are able to pierce the market no one else could at this level?
You know, I think there are like a combination, obviously, of things, but that I think the power delivery is one of the biggest benefits of the bike. So you have, or more or less unlimited power, like more or less anyone can use, but you can adjust it so that anyone can ride it. That's the really cool thing. And you don't need to think about gears or clutch. So, for you now that you're going to jump this building.
And he can't use the clutch.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't say that. don't tell our audience that. And I am jumping the Jaxxon house on the start.
Perfect.
Yeah.
After he signs the waiver.
Yeah, for sure.
But it doesn't have a clutch, so it'll make it a lot easier for me.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think, the ease of use, the power delivery, like the chassis performance is also amazing, I think. And, then the lack of noise and maintenance is, of course, huge, like that makes things so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the biggest proponent of, electric bikes and the concept of having no noise. I don't know if Twitch told you, like I've been super hot on this industry. I feel like it's one of the biggest industries, even for kids. Like I grew up in the era of, skateboards and BMX bikes and mongooses and Razor scooters were at every single store. And it built the industry at a whole because you had the common folk could go out there, a guy who doesn't know how to ride, doesn't know how to skate, but could just go to a Target and grab a board. Now, in today's time, you don't have that aspect. So those industries die because there's no way for the average Joe to kind of get in the game. Do you feel like this is going to amplify motocross and amplify people wanting to ride bikes, or is it going to actually deter them from ever going to this traditional gas engine and then going your way?
I think what we can see now, like there's such a trend with kids to ride electric bikes. Like we have this huge surround trend, and let's say, I don't know if you can, I think it's like a bike life movement kind of in US, especially with maybe a couple of 100,000 people that are now riding different electric smaller bikes. And,
your bike's the next bike in line.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's the most compatible bike for them. And that's when he was saying that, like, that was one of my questions. I'm like, I totally see like all the kids that are riding the Surons, their next bike is like, we have this kid, Levi, that we sponsor. He jumps our ramp on a Suron.
Wow.
And he also shows up with a Stark in his truck too. And I'm like, this is like, all these kids that are riding the Surons are going to be on a Stark next.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's a no-brainer for
like
them.
the ladder, that's going to be the
It's
new
just
ladder.
so it's almost riding like the same thing, but a bigger version and faster and better version. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And then I think for the traditional like motocross, development from your kid, now you ride a Stasic. But now we're missing, like there is no proper 65 electric, there is no proper 85 electric, but that will come, of course.
Yeah, we're already working on it.
Perfect.
If you want to come in on our business venture, we'll bring you in.
Right over here.
Yeah, we got
Red
you.
Rover, send the Stark
You
money
might
on
have
over.
some knowledge we can use.
Maybe, who knows?
So are you the genius that sat there and came up with the battery and the concept?
No, I mean, we're a lot of guys, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think like the innovation is the most fun part for sure. You know, figure out like, because that's like building an electric vehicle, and that's what everyone does. Like they build an electric vehicle, but that's about it. Like you have to build a better vehicle that is electric.
Yeah.
And you know, to do that, that's a difficult thing. How do you make it, you know, the lightest battery pack in the world, the lightest motor? How do you have the highest efficiency? You know, that is the real, you know, the challenge and the interesting thing. So that's the most fun. For sure.
How long production on a bike, like from start to finish? How long does it take to build a bike?
You could say that it takes. So about 1 hour is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but you know, we finish a bike every 10 minutes now, more or less.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's with the 300 employees.
Yeah.
Wait. Every 10 minutes?
They're finishing a bike.
Every 10 minutes a start gets done?
Yeah.
Like a baby is born every 10 minutes?
Absolutely. Yeah.
In Sweden?
Spain. Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's gnarly.
I gotta just hone in on that for 1 sec. From a business perspective, your timeline must be through the roof on your ability to have a 3PL and a logistics center and being able to fulfill orders.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I would never imagine. I thought it would have taken 2-3 weeks to build one of these things.
Well, I mean, you know,
It probably did in the beginning.
Yeah. Like,
took a few years.
yeah, like what was that timeline? Where did it originally start at to where you're at now in the manufacturing speed?
I mean, when you develop a production line, you develop it for a certain speed. So now it has been more or less the same. Let's say we have, you know, became 20, 30% more efficient throughout time. But, you know, of course, the first bikes are built by engineering and mechanics team. Those takes days to build. But then when you get into a line, like a line has a certain speed, you know, so of course, takes a couple of weeks to set it up, everyone to, you know, learn their steps, their part of the line. But once that's up and running, like you have to rebuild the line to change the speed.
But the efficiency of that speed has gone from what to what? Like what was the original time it took you to build one of these to now where you're at?
Oh, I can't remember exactly, but it's not a huge difference.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I think this year we are targeting to more or less double. So let's see.
And do you have robots in your warehouse too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of robots?
So in the battery line, we use robots to put the pack together.
All
That
right.
is crazy.
Yeah.
So you're like the Elon Musk of the bike industry now.
Actually, Tesla is interesting. If you compare Tesla to Stark is growing faster.
No way.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Because they started 2003, so you know, like
Yeah.
now they're massive. But if you look at the first 5 years, like, you know, so far we are faster. But it's going to be hard to keep that up.
Did you learn anything about the timeline and the efficiency model of how to build these like manufacturing systems from Tesla and other companies that were predominantly ran by batteries?
You know, I'm not an expert in manufacturing, so we brought in experts in that.
You hire someone that is.
Yeah,
I love that.
You just build a solid team around you. You
That's
have
the
to.
smartest thing. If anybody could learn anything from this podcast,
Yeah.
don't have an ego. If you don't know what
can't.
you're doing in business, hire someone better.
No, you hire someone that knows.
Yeah.
I can't jump a house, so I have Twitch. You know what I mean?
See?
Exactly.
That's so crazy because a lot of people, and I find the business side so interesting. Like I could ask you a million questions all day, but I find the timeline and the efficiency of the warehouse and the ability to put together the timeline of the manufacturing the most interesting part. Because from a business
It is.
perspective, it's endless scale.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's such an interesting challenge because building a vehicle is really it's so much about cost, like your efficiency throughout everything, because it's a low margin product. Selling a t-shirt is the biggest challenge will be marketing because the cost is kind of, you know, it's the same for everyone,
Yeah.
right? But building a vehicle, like you have to, every percentage that you can save means that you can offer a more competitive price to your customer. And it's a huge difference because it's such an expensive vehicle.
Do you know how many bikes you've sold so far?
Yes, but that's confidential.
Confidential.
Are you
I was
raising money
wondering.
or something? Yeah. Why is it confidential? Raise it.
I
Don't want
mean,
no
I
one to
think
know.
Let them
know-
keep wondering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like there is not a specific reason, but it's just like if we are gonna communicate it, like it has to be a strategic reason when and why, how we communicate it. So
Yeah.
it's just,
I heard the number was 24 million bikes. Kobe number. And I'm not going to say if I'm right or
more?
wrong, but I heard it was 24 million bikes.
the team is working pretty fast.
Yeah. Because I did that.
Hey, they come out every 10 minutes.
Yeah, we did some math from the guy in the back, Wayne, and he ran how long the manufacturing plant's been up. 10 minutes a bike. He shot me a number, said 24 million bikes. I said, wow.
That's not bad at all.
I said Tony Stark's rich. So at what point do the Avengers do the quality control on the bikes and they come in and make sure they work before you send them out? Like how many people are in this place riding these things around the warehouse to make sure they work?
So I mean, every bike goes through a specific quality procedure. So first there's a dyno. So first all the components have their own quality procedure, and then every product has a category. So you have safety components, then you do maybe X-ray the component, see that there's no cracks or something like that, and then you have, let's say the lowest level of quality check would be parts that are more, let's say, cosmetics, like a plastic cover or something like that. Then there you do less checks, and then of course in the line you do a certain amount of checks as well. And then the bike, when it's finished, it goes through a dyno, so it has a specific program it runs through, so it tests that does the battery, powertrain, everything work together in the right way, the cooling system. And then after that we have a visual inspection where a person will go through a number of points, just say, is this correct, is the torque of this bolt correct, and so on and so on.
It's pretty rad.
A dyno for an electric bike?
Yeah.
Like the ones they did in Fast and Furious to make sure that everything was going to be ready for race wars?
Probably. I can't remember.
Like, what's the dyno doing
He
for
was
the
too
electric
busy
bike?
building the bike. He wasn't watching Fast and the Furious.
That's a great movie, though.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. See, I love a guy from Sweden who has culture. Wait, but what does the dyno do for the start?
Yeah, so
Just testing everything, right?
Yeah, right. You test every component individually, but you need to test the system, right? So how do you know that the system works correctly unless you ride the bike? And you can't have a rider going around the track because that's going to scratch the bike, of course. So then you put load on it in a dyno so that you can take it through a specific cycle to see that everything works as it should.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on over there.
No, there is, seriously, a lot.
This is like much more than just building a bike. The one thing you touched upon, I would love for you to elaborate on this. No one knows the culture of Moto better than Twitch. He's been iconic and transcended culture from Moto to streetwear to now his own brand, and now he's the host of one of the fastest growing podcasts. He's also one of our best athletes for Jaxxon and our Santo Studio. Talk to me about the dynamic, the look of the bike, the feeling. You mentioned this. It's so important to have a bike that looks good because I can kill it. You've always been one to have the sickest setup, sickest gear. Talk to me about the bike because I want to hear your thoughts on that, on why you think it looks so good and why you think it's making impact.
It's just the whole look of the bike. Like you said, it needs to be futuristic looking. It needs to be different. It needs to be better than what's out there. And I think you guys killed it with that. Like 100%, it's one of the best looking bikes out there. I see Patrick at my house every single day, and I just look at the bike. I'm like, dude, every time I look at it, I see something different. I'm like, oh, that's dope. I'm like, oh, that's sick too. Like, so for me, looking at it all the time, I'm like, I think you guys killed it. Did a great job. I think it's insane. And Ritter actually brought one over one day. He brought over like 6 of them, and we all went trail riding one day. Cool. And it was like right after it got done raining. It wasn't really wet. Like I wouldn't really go trail ride and have fun, but I was like, I wanted to give this bike a try. And we went out and rode it, and I've never had so much fun trail riding in my life before, just because like how smooth the power was. Like there were spots that we've always had like disced up, like right next to people that have horses or cows or like all that, and like you could never get away with riding there. We sat there for 45 minutes and made the sickest turn track ever in the best dirt, and no one even knew we were there. Amazing. So like not to have the noise and like all that, like I was like, man, I'm like you said, there's so many places getting shut down and so many people that have land and want to ride, but they can't because their neighbors are going to complain. Like that right there for me was like, I'm like, man, this is the future. Like people, like sometimes Patrick will call me on the weekend. He's like, hey, can I ride your house? I'm like, go for it. Taco will call me, hey, can I ride your house on the weekend? I'm like, no, I don't want my neighbors getting pissed off. Where when Patrick comes over and rides my house on the weekends, no one knows he's even there. Yeah. You hear the ramp go, but that's it. Yeah. So it's definitely, the noise is definitely a big thing, especially in Southern California. Like you get so many people that complain about anything. I hear your dirt bike, I'm offended. You know what I mean? So it's like to not have that is like definitely a key thing. People want to
find reasons to get annoyed, that's for sure.
And like, I don't know. Like I remember I was going down the street and I was like, oh, I'm going to see what this 80 horsepower is about. I was probably already doing like 20, 30 miles an hour. So I turned it up to 80 horsepower. Or I think Ritter had it set on a button where I could hit the other map and it would go to that one. And I hit it on that one. I did a burnout for like 300 yards, like a football field. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, and then I'm just going as fast as I can. And to me, the weirdest thing was going as fast as the bike can. I don't know how fast the bike actually goes, but I remember looking down and seeing like 110 or 111. And I'm like, it's just silent. I just hear the wind. And I'm like, oh my God, if I crash right now, this is going to be really bad. Like, so I sat up, and when I sat up, it almost blew me off the back of the bike because like my visor went up and everything. Yeah. But the bike was like, it was just something so different that I've never ridden before, and it was so much fun.
So how do we make you switch to a Stark then?
I don't know, man. I love my Yamaha.
Hey, he's a big ticket. This is a big ticket. This guy can move the needle, but he need a nice check.
Understand.
You got to go through me for that one. I'll take no commission, but he's a figure type of guy. I always argue with him about the Stark because I'm like, dude, if you put me on a Stark, I would beat everybody at Supercross. I don't care. Ken Roxon, Sexton, Lawrence, Hunter, Jet, you name them. I'm taking put McGrath in there. I'm smoking him on the Stark. They all know that to be true. Twitch, you agreed. Twitch
I
said
definitely don't agree. I don't think any of them agree.
Okay, but they all would say probably. I would assume they would.
We all beg to differ, but okay.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they would beat me.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows is right. Thank you, Sweden.
We'll
Appreciate
never
you.
know.
I love how Europeans are very common with this, like, yeah, we get it. But
we get it. You Americans are stupid as hell.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying. You put me on a Stark, I'm smoking everybody that's not maybe those guys then. Those guys are fast. But like, I just don't understand the concept. Like, do you feel these guys eventually are going to have to realize that this bike is a lot more eco-friendly, a lot more containable in terms of growth for the sport, the industry? Like Twitch built a compound at his house. He's probably the only guy I know that would invest like $1 million into dirt. This guy literally he's got forest trees from like the Amazon that are legally allowed to be imported. He's paid all his taxes and tariffs. But
Boone's Valley.
He's got the craziest thing at his house where he built like a compound for his whole team and all his friends and his DBK brand. And we put a Jaxxon Santo Studio gym in there. And it's awesome. Like, and I can imagine you being like, yo, I spent all this money. I don't need my neighbors freaking out on me over the noise. Mm-hmm. But like, do you feel that eventually motocross, supercross, all these industries are eventually going to have to transfer over? Or do you feel like that barrier, that bridge is going to be a long time coming?
You know, I think the transition will happen. I don't know, like it's hard to say like everything will change to electric. I think more or less everything will change to electric eventually because the bike already now is so damn good. I mean, I'm very biased. Yeah, but
well, it's honestly like when everyone was like, when everyone was on 2-strokes and they're like, eventually we're all going to have to ride 4-strokes. So we're not going to make 2-strokes anymore. And everyone was like, there's no way. Like, I'll ride 2-strokes forever. I was one of those guys. I was like, I'll never ride a 4-stroke. Because I remember a 4-stroke being like my dad's 79 XR 500, where I'm like, I would never ride that thing on a ramp, you know?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like where you guys are at.
Yeah, I mean, like the bike now is really good, but give us, 10 more years and it's going to be insane. Mm-hmm. Like the difference, we're investing so heavily in R&D. Like we have, out of the 150 people in the office, 85 are in R&D and they are fully focused on innovation. So like, we have a product today that I think is amazing, but if you take 10 years from now, like it's going to be uncomparable. And then like now, if you take an average guy, the average guy is way faster on the Stark. If you take a pro, like it's very similar. For a pro, we need more range. But in 10 years, like there's gonna be, the difference will be too big. Like it will be a bit like some people like to ride a bike from the 1920s because there's a certain feeling to it. And I totally get that. So there will be a percentage of people that want to do like the old school stuff, which is nice. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to ride the fastest, the best dirt bike, well, and I think already today, electric is the answer to that. If you want to do a Dakar rally, you have to ride gas today because electric cannot give you that range. Mm-hmm. So there are certain limitations, obviously, but in most cases, it is the best solution today.
Well, even less than 10 years, like you said, like even if you guys are on the production line and you can find something that you can make 2 to 3% better, you're already doing that. Yeah. So it's like you're already working on that in little increments, but that's going to add up within 2 years, Yeah,
and I think already this year we're going to launch some really, really cool stuff.
You guys have a lot of cool stuff in the works, or what?
I mean, we are very focused on titanium. Mm-hmm. It's something that we strongly believe in. Like titanium is an amazing material that is not used to the extent it should be used today.
Yeah, there's so much more you can do with it.
Yeah,
and it looks cool.
It looks so fucking cool. You don't need to have an ugly paint on it. Like it has just because it doesn't corrode. And I think the problem with titanium it has been difficult to manufacture it. Mm-hmm. Like how do you form it in the right way? It has been hard to shape. But now with 3D printing, you can shape it however you want. So I mean, we're gonna release some huge titanium projects this year.
That was one thing I thought that was really cool when you guys launched your bike too. Like you look at every other brand and they have their logo so big on it. Yeah. And it's like your bike came out and it was so sleek looking, futuristic looking, and you have the smallest logo out of every brand out there. Like you let your bike do the talking, not the name.
Yeah, and I think there's something to that. Like if you, like why would you, I mean, I can understand why you slap such a huge logo on it, but the product is the brand.
Yes.
That's what I think is really important. And, then of course, I think you should put your name there to kind of clarify or whatever. But I think the cleanness to that is really nice. And also, like, we don't have decals. And that was one of the things we discussed quite early on. Like, how should the stickers look like? Like, no, we should not have stickers, because if the bodywork doesn't look good on their own, it's the wrong shape.
That's really smart. Seriously, like, that's genius.
That I was gonna say that, like, for me aesthetically, that's what drew me in, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know how to fix anything, but like that is a same concept similar to the Tesla model, which is it's all about the aesthetic, the look, which took inspiration, like you said, from Ferrari and Lambo and the people before them. So taking inspiration from people before you, but then making it better is incredible. I feel like you guys did that, but made it better. Who is part of the design team though? Because that part also interests me. Like, how long did it take to design that frame and that look?
So I mean, the design. I mean, we have spent ridiculous time. If you take the bodywork specifically, we had 2 guys working on it. Like, we did it 2 times. It was really stupid. So we did it first, and like, it was good. We had a couple of MXGP riders over that, like, they liked the ergonomics and everything, because that's super important. And the looks was, I think, good, but it wasn't amazing. Mm-hmm. And we were like walking around like, oh, fuck, it's done, but we're not super happy with it, And
you have such an amazing product. You're like, this aesthetically has to look amazing too.
So we had a guy internally who is such a perfectionist, and he convinced us we can redo it in 6 weeks. And like, we had to design how it should be, and it's like, that would be so much better. But he is an extreme perfectionist. He spent 60 weeks to finish it. So he fooled us. If we knew it was 60 weeks, we probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah, it was well worth the wait.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 6 to 60 is probably not ideal for the timeline.
It's not good. You want to be able to plan your time a little bit better than that. Yeah.
What do you feel like the future of Stark is with Supercross? And, I see you guys are breaking into Arena Cross now, like, as a class. And I feel like it's getting there, but it's like, what has to happen in order for you guys to, like, not be competitive, but be in Supercross? Because we already know the bike's competitive.
Yeah. No, I think, we could race Supercross this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The bike is capable. We want to do it, and I think it's just the question about when will we be allowed to do it. And I think it's a maturity thing. Like, this year we're racing Arena Cross in many countries around the world. We're racing Supercross series in many countries as well. Not yet here, of course. The AMA Supercross series is the number one by you can't even compare it to anything else. That's the main goal. When will they allow us to race? That's a great question.
What is the holdup? Why won't they let you race?
They built something that is really, really great over many years. And I think of course, the other OEMs is a big part of that. So there's a lot,
because they back it so hard.
Yeah, of course. They spend many millions every year and have been doing that for so many years. So I think there is something to that. They don't want to just let us in because I don't think the other OEMs want us there.
Yeah. Because they don't have something competitive with it.
Yeah, right. And if we go out and beat them on an electric bike, that's bad for their business.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's the reason why we're not there now.
A lot of politics.
Yeah,
for
sure. Absolutely. Yeah. But I think we will end up there. Like, 'cause,
I do too.
So, but it's nice. It's good to start now in Arena Cross. We won the Arena Cross Championship last year in UK, which was cool.
Sick.
And we are now competing in Arena Cross US. We need to improve a little bit. So let's see how it goes tomorrow. But yeah.
It's cool. I love your guys' whole squad you have, like Trevor Stewart, Kalana, Lincoln, Wyatt. Like, it's cool. Like, all those kids come ride my house all the time, like at least a couple days a week. And it's funny. Like, sometimes I'll sit there and, like, me and Vicky will be looking at each other like, all these kids on e-bikes now, like, who would have ever thought? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to hear. And they're all like, oh, I like the handbrake better than the foot brake, so I run a handbrake on my bike. I'm like, I would never want to run a handbrake on my bike, But they're like, oh, it's easier for freestyle, or it's easier for right-handed corners. I can hit my brake. Like, it's just cool to see the progression that all those kids are doing right now. Yeah. And it's funny to hear the people that, like, try to talk shit on the bike too. Like, oh, it's a cheater bike. I'm like, you weren't saying a cheater bike when you was riding in my backyard with it, with Patrick before X Games. But as soon as X Games comes around, everyone's yelling at Raha and they're yelling at Patrick, oh, you're a cheater. And I'm like, why is it a cheater? I'm like, because they took a chance to go ride something that nobody else would. Yeah. It's the same shit. Yeah, it works a lot different and it's better in different aspects. But everyone was mad that, like, oh, well, it's 80 horsepower bike and Raha's going to beat everyone. I don't think it helped Raha. If anything, I think it hurt him without having the gyro of the motor, with the effect of how hard you have to lean off the bike. Did it help Patrick? 100% it helped Patrick. Like, So it's like those were the dudes that took the chance to go out there and show the capability that bike had to do. And I think Patrick's one of the best dudes you guys have riding that bike right now. Like I feel like he's done so much for the brand and for himself. Like he's making old school tricks look cool as hell.
Yeah, how could, like the whip, like how could you make the whip that big? Like
everyone is already like, it looked like everyone was maxed out. Like no one could go any bigger without crashing, you know? And then here comes Patrick. You're like, holy shit, dude.
So now he spins the whole way around.
Yeah. Now he's doing 360s. Like he was trying to do 360s before X Games. Like he called me up a couple weeks. He's like, I think I'm gonna do a 360 this week. I'm like, don't you fucking dare go do a 360. I'm like, don't be that guy. I'm like, you're gonna go to X Games and you're gonna win. I'm like, you're gonna win X Games. He's like, don't say that. I'm like, you're going to win X Games. I'm like, you could have the shittiest day ever and your whips are still bigger than anyone else right now. I'm like, don't go risk getting hurt. I'm like, everyone I know that does 360s have been knocked out so many times because you come swinging in if you over rotate, under rotate. I'm like, just wait till after X Games. And so he finally waited and he did it the other day and he stuck it perfect, you know? But do you really want to risk that before X Games?
That was the right decision. For sure.
I've seen so many people do that before a big event and get hurt and then not even make it to the event when they could have won.
Yeah.
So that was like me being like big brother right there. Like, hey,
Coach
I'm like,
Twitch.
don't you fucking dare do that. Like,
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, this guy's the most knowledgeable guy on a bike when it comes to freestyle motocross.
I'm like a fucking dinosaur. I've been around forever. I've seen everything. You know what I mean?
It's for some reason, every single guy we interview, every single person we talk to has either ridden by him, been helped by him, coached by him, taken in by him. He's given them a burrito after a ride. Like this guy, there's not a guy I don't think he's touched. One thing I was going to ask you though, because you are raw, rugged, and real on the Jaxxon podcast. Is it unfair though for a Stark to race against a guy like Jet Lawrence on a 450, or is it not?
I don't think so. I think I remember hearing something like everyone's like, oh, well, it's 80 horsepower. It's like you can lock the computer to be the same horsepower as one of those bikes. Their power delivery is just different. And the other manufacturers can figure that out. You know what I mean? Like they have different power delivery. They have different maps for dry tracks, wet tracks, rainy weather. So it's like, I feel like he said, it's just politics. It's 100% like, they just don't have that same capability of what you guys have right now. So everyone's scared.
Sure.
But do you still need a good rider if you're on that bike?
Yeah, you have to have a good rider on that bike. You could go jump in and race Anaheim too this weekend. You're good.
Because I was just gonna come in on one of those things and just try to take home a trophy.
Silent assassin. No one will know you're there.
All black outfit, Jaxxon podcast and Stark.
Yeah.
I'll come in for you guys if you need me.
Perfect.
We're speaking to athletes before I sign my 10-day with you guys.
Yeah. Maybe if you strap a fake exhaust to it and have a speaker, you can actually get your way in there.
Maybe you guys should come out with one of those.
Yeah.
Here's your AMA accessories.
Yeah, I was gonna say that might be actually a good way to get in there. You just like kind of modify.
I mean,
it.
I think the rules doesn't say that you cannot have an electric motor because they have that starting the bikes. They just have to have a gas motor. So if we just put a small chainsaw motor somewhere on the bike,
that just idles.
Yeah.
You'll be good to go.
Oh my God, dude. What are some of the athletes? You talk about Kobe Raha, you talk about Patrick Evans. Are these guys official athletes? Like who are official athletes for Start?
You got Bogle.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of guys. So, I mean, don't make me say the names because
because there is a lot of guys.
I will forget one.
Yeah,
and that's,
but like how deep is your roster right now? Is it big? Are you spending a lot of money on athletes?
I think, we're not spending huge monies. I mean, we are still quite early, and for us,
still a startup company.
Sure, so I think the people that are riding our bike, they do it because they believe in it, and we try to help some of the guys, of course, with something, but it's not crazy compensations. And I think of course, like the day that we will race in Supercross, we have to pay the same amounts that the others, and we have to be ready for that, of course. But right now, it's a little bit too early, I think, for the company to start spending those kind of, let's say, crazy money. But we do our best to support. We pay something, of course, but we do our best to help out. We really try to, like,
of course.
If someone is going to an event somewhere, we'll do everything to get a bike there for them. And we try to be a good partner,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any plans on bringing out, like, a different bike, like a smaller bike or anything?
Yeah, we're working on several more bikes.
You are.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear. I've always wondered. I'm like, it'd be so sick to see like a Stark like 110. You know what I mean? Like, or even like a 230, like how Kawasaki has that one. Just kind of like the same thing, like what we were saying. Like, what's a kid on a Suron go to next?
Yeah, sure. It's gonna come, but the thing is, it takes some time. We really want to take the time to do it right. So it's not.
And your main focus is your big bike.
Sure. Yeah.
Have you hit a jump on a Stark?
I haven't jumped to 75.
No.
Just trail road and track stuff behind my
Got it.
house. Yeah.
I wanted to know because you always talk about you like to hear it and feel it, and like you kind of have like your line. You kind of already know where to go, and you kind of know when you're gonna kind of like. How do you kind of get that visualization if you can't hear it?
I watch all the guys ride my house all the time, and they literally hit the ramp exactly like we would on our 450. Like you can hear them be like, bop, 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 bop. Like, it sounds the same. Like you can hear the chain run in. Like you hear all that, So it's they say they hit it just like they do on their 450s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah,
incredible.
I think you just gotta have that feeling. I was we went riding. Yes, I don't have that feeling. I was on a motocross track yesterday for the first time in a while. I mostly ride enduro otherwise, and we went out with the guys to Paris, and there are some big jumps there.
Yeah.
Fuck, I cased every single time. I'm hurting today.
That big tabletop, that thing's like 110 feet. Like that thing's big.
No, I didn't have the balls to do that.
You didn't jump that?
No,
man.
But I jumped all the other ones though.
My little buddy Gavin Sayers came home stoked on Tuesday night, mini night. He jumped it on his 65 and his 85.
What?
He was stoked.
That's insane.
Yeah, him and Boogie.
Fuck, that's so impressive.
Yeah.
Cool. One thing I was going to ask you about, like the reducing of plastic, the CO2 pollution, the things you guys are doing, like on the environmental side, the things you're doing on the manufacturing side. Do you guys plan on building manufacturing in the U.S. and like bringing the company out here, or do you plan on doing everything centrally in Spain and then shipping worldwide?
I mean, I think we will have more factories around the world. It's hard to say where. I think building a factory in the U.S. It will depend on what Trump will do now.
Mm-hmm.
Donnie's back.
Yeah. So let's
See what he does.
Yeah, for sure.
But is the expansion of the brand needed to be in the U.S., or is it easy for you guys to ship these things around?
No, it's easy to ship them, So that's not an issue. And I think having several factories building the same product, financially it only makes sense when there's like a ridiculous volume. Like every dirt bike today is only made in one place. All of them, and that's what makes the most sense. Sometimes legislation will force you to kind of do some sort of final assembly in the country, and that's more or less just a waste of resources. So like it's a bad thing for the market, I think. But let's see what's going to happen with duties and things like that.
I got another question on the bike you guys just dropped. What was it, the enduro bike or?
The Varg EX.
Yeah, how'd that do?
Really, really good.
People had to have been stoked on that because there's so many guys that ride just trails and stuff like that, and just being in the forest in certain spots. Like maybe you can't, like everyone. Oh, you need a spark arrestor, or you need this, know. So I was thinking when I saw that, I'm like, dude, that's a genius too. I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's a much bigger market than just motocross. So we've had people asking about it since we launched, obviously. So we know it was anticipated, but it has been a hugely positive response. We're sold out now for the first few months, which is very nice.
Bike wasn't much different, right? Just headlight, kickstand, certain like tail lights, stuff like that.
Yeah, a little bit more battery capacity.
Does that battery run a little longer?
Yeah, 20% more.
Is it a lot heavier?
No,
same.
Yeah, same.
Have you guys been working on trying to get the battery lighter?
Yeah, we're working on several things to make the bike lighter. So I think the battery will probably not become so much lighter, but rather staying within the same weight, but more capacity.
Yeah.
But then other components would reduce in weight for sure.
That's awesome. It's gonna be so hard to figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
Like battery stuff is just insane.
Yeah, it is. It is super complex.
Yeah. Do you guys have gnarly like your factory? Like, does it have to have like are you guys? Is it hard to do exactly what you want to do? Like, does the government crack down on you guys at all?
I mean, it's
like with what materials and stuff you can use.
That's not such a big. I think in general, Spain has a very high level of bureaucracy, and everything is super slow. And you need a lot of permits, and it moves incredibly slow. I think, unfortunately, that's the case in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like the government is trying to stop you from creating tax revenue.
Which is so weird.
That makes no sense.
0 sense. You got to pay your taxes, but we don't want you to make any more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, but it's always a struggle,
Yeah,
but,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal what you guys are doing. I think not only is it going to transcend the industry of supercross and motocross and freestyle, but you're going to allow a new demographic. Like, that was a great, parallel to that, because I do feel like what is the next step after Super 73 or Saron? It's going to be this. And for me, I could barely even ride my little scooter over there without falling. So once I get on one of these things, I'm sure my game will go to a whole new level.
Yeah, especially when you jump the building.
I'm for sure jumping this building. I'll probably do it for charity so everybody watches. But I do think that what you're doing is revolutionary in terms of how you're going to give this next generation of kids who are excited to be on a bike again, which I would hope the motocross industry and the supercross industry and everybody in freestyle understands. That's healthy for everybody because you don't have the days of X Games where everybody was like watching Twitch. So now that you have all these guys on Super 73s, if they could parlay that into this or into supercross or freestyle, you can revitalize an entire industry. And I feel like, you know, a few years ago we had cars with lights underneath them, and a few years before that you had Razor scooters, and right now the moment for electric bikes is there, but it's staying, it's holding. So I feel like you guys are going to be able to take that entire market share. Do you guys feel that if supercross or motocross doesn't let you guys kind of come into that, or say X Games doesn't allow you guys to really do what you want to do, that you guys would just start your own league?
I mean, someone will for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
Someone sees the market.
You know, if you want to
it's
have
big.
if you want to have the best league in the world, you need to allow the best bikes and the best racers there. If you don't, you know, someone else will.
I actually just saw a video the other day. Someone opened up like an indoor track with your guys' bikes, and it was all lit up. Like,
that was so cool. In the middle of Madrid, actually.
that's where that is.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
It was like a K1, like a go-kart track, but a motorcycle track, indoors lit up with like neon lights and shit. Like, it was
Small
pretty
jumps
cool.
and things. Yeah.
Yeah, just like I was like, that's pretty rad. I'm like,
Yeah.
the sky's the limit with these things.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
I could see
Imagine we
that.
could have that here as well.
Yeah.
It would be so nice.
You could do that all over.
Yeah, we want to have the Starks at the Super Cup in November.
Yeah.
We're doing a big event at the OC Fair.
Well,
Cool.
Patrick will be there. He'll
OC
probably win.
Fairgrounds. Yeah, we want to we want to basically give away like $25,000 to the best trick.
Cool.
Biggest air. Twitch is going to put together the competition. Just
Amazing.
a one-day event. We're going to invite like 5 guys. Twitch is putting it all together. $25,000 grand prize. And we wanted it. I don't think they will allow us to use engine-based bikes, anything with noise, because it's so close to neighbors. And it's like during the off season of the OC Fair. So we were looking for a replacement. We were looking for a substitute for that. So I'm excited to kind of see that too. Hopefully Patrick Evans does win. I don't even know if we should let him compete, actually.
I've been hearing that from a lot of people.
I don't even know if it's fair.
That's pretty crazy though. Like, you're so good that people don't think it's fair to compete.
Yeah,
against.
or they're like, no electric bikes are allowed at this event. I'm like,
Yeah,
you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like,
Twitch keeps it raw, rugged, and real. And let's just settle this once and for all. Patrick Evans is extremely good at what he does.
He's one of the
but
baddest
now
dudes
they're
out there.
blaming it on the bike. Can you just settle this debate once and for all?
the bike definitely helps, like with having the battery and all that. You know what I mean? But I still see other guys riding that bike not whipping it as big as him.
Of
Amen.
course.
That are really good,
Amen.
and really talented as well. So it's like,
I see a lot of fat dudes who take steroids.
yes,
They ain't shredded, but they take steroids. You still got to go in the gym and lift some weights.
it's the same thing.
Respectfully, right?
And another thing, everyone else had the same opportunity to ride that bike if they wanted to. So it's like,
No,
when Patrick came to me, I remember Patrick was talking to me. He's like, I don't know. Like, do you think I should do this? Like, do you think I'm selling out? I'm like, first of all, I'm like, is anyone else offering you money to ride their bike? And I go, second of all, this is the future of our sport. Why not be on the forefront of it? Why not get this bike dialed in now?
Get this guy a contract.
Hire you, man.
What is Start doing?
just
Get this guy a
saying.
10-day right now. Send the
I'm
contract.
just saying, like, I've been around this industry for a long time, and I see the bike, I see what it does, I see what it's capable of, and I see what's to come. And it's like, I told him, I'm like, why not take this opportunity right now and be one of the first guys on it? And when all these other manufacturers come out with the e-bike, it's not going to be as good, and you're going to be on the best one, and you're going to be killing it already. So why not start it now?
But it's so cool because, I mean, he didn't ride it from day one. There were so many people that were riding it for a couple of years before he did.
Yeah.
And, you know,
His first day, he looked good on that bike. I'm like,
yeah,
holy
so like no one ever talked about that it's easier to whip on the Stark.
nobody until X Games.
Yeah. Because he was the one that figured it out and showed everyone.
Yeah.
Until he won.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just so everybody, I mean, you still got to be able to control the bike, hold the bike, find yourself in the air. I'm not a freestyle motocross
We
legend
haven't
like this
released
guy.
the
But,
whip mode yet. When we do,
so he just clicks it into whip mode, and
Yeah.
that's what makes him do
he
it.
has a button, you know. That's
Ding, and it whips for him.
It's called the Patrick Evans whip. It
Yeah.
just hit the button.
Is
and
he
you
getting
do it.
his own model?
he should.
He's
He
going to
should.
get like a Patrick
He
Evans
should,
pro
for sure.
model.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like
Discuss
he's been
that.
one of the main dudes for the brand right now that
Yeah.
people are like, oh shit.
Let's get Patrick Evans his own pro model, please.
He's such a cool guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so fucking impressed by him. That's
I'm
amazing.
cool. It's cool to see where he's come from because I remember when he first started riding freestyle, he was like, I looked at him like one of my buddy Mike Mason. When Mike Mason would come ride freestyle, he was mainly like supercross, arena cross, but when he would come ride freestyle, he was really freaking good. And I always said, I'm like, when Mason takes freestyle serious, we're going to be in for it. Like, we're going to have to watch our back. And sure enough, he came, he started winning everything. Same thing with Patrick. He used to show up for like these whip events and like little freestyle things here and there, but he would get wasted the night before. And the next day he would show up with like almost like an excuse of like, oh, well, like I drank all night. And I'm like, why are you drinking all night when you had a chance at winning today? You know what I mean? Like he almost like gave himself an excuse. And then right before he did the Stark deal is when I seen him like start taking this serious, like, okay, like I can actually make money riding my motorcycle. You know what I mean? And it's cool to see how far he's come and how much growth you guys and him have both gotten out of your guys' partnership. It's cool to see.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate being on the Jaxxon podcast.
Yep.
I appreciate everything you're doing, especially taking care of the boys. You got a good squad around you. You got great athletes.
Keep doing what you're doing.
You have an amazing company.
And thank you for the future.
Yeah, thank you guys for taking the time. Appreciate
100%. Listen, I'm Bear Degidio. This is Tony Stark, a.k.a. the one and only, the revolutionary man himself, all the way from Sweden, live at Jaxxon House in Newport Beach. And the one and only Twitch. Thank you guys for watching. We got tons of new guests coming. Make sure you guys subscribe, leave a comment, let us know who you guys want next on the Jaxxon Sports Show. We're out.